Hey everyone. So with Thanksgiving over in the United States, to me, it's like officially the Christmas season. And there are so many of you that I am so grateful for that I would love to like send Christmas gifts to, but that's not really practical. So I decided to do a little video series where from time to time over the Christmas season, I might make a video specifically for you, giving you recommendations on books that I wish I could send you that I think you would absolutely love. And the first person that I am going to start with is the person who is going to have the longest video, and that is Sarah from Your True Shelf. So her and I literally, I feel like, could switch homes and live in each other's library and be so happy. Like we probably have the closest taste, in my opinion, compared to anyone else I follow on BookTube. Like there are some people who they can recommend a book to me and I will absolutely love it, but I'm not necessarily gonna love every single book they read. And with Sarah, like we are close to like 90%, I feel like. And so I have 20 books that I want to share with everybody, but specifically that I think Sarah from Your True Shelf would really like. So let's get into this and feel free to check out her channel because she is absolutely amazing. She is a doctor and mom in the UK, so she's also a vegan. If any of those sort of things those intersections of her personality interest you, then you should definitely check her out. So, book number one, this is kind of what started this whole idea. I think she would love I Miss You When I Blink by Mary Laura Philpott. Um, Mary Laura is amazing on social media, and her and I have like developed a connection, like many of you on BookTube, where I feel like we like legit have this social media connection. So anyway, I Miss You When I Blink is a memoir, and that's what we're gonna kind of start with is memoir and one book of poetry. But this is about basically Mary Laura kind of feeling like, okay, she's married, she went to college, she's married, she has two kids, she has an older boy and then a girl. And it's like you're grown and you don't like the way your life is going and you cannot just give up and like go do something else or move or whatever. Like it's so much more difficult when you're an adult. And so this is just like her life memoir and essays, just kind of talking about like this question of like what the hell am I supposed to do with my life. And this book made me cry, it made me laugh. Like I loved it so much, and it's definitely due for a reread. It's also great on audiobook because she reads it. So anyway, this is the first recommendation. The next one is another author who I met in real life, and it's There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather by Linda McGurk. She is a Swedish woman who was living in the United States for quite some time, although now she spends most of her time in Sweden. And basically, when she moved to the US after college, and her and her husband, who is American, they started a family, she became really frustrated with the way Americans parent. And she was kind of trying to parent her kids the Swedish way in America. And there's just like all these different like cultural shock sort of things where people thought she was really weird for how she was parenting. And so this book is all about that kind of experience, and it's also about the importance of nature in kids' lives and in their development, and just the importance of getting outside no matter what the weather. The next book is Made by Stephanie Land, and it is about a single mom trying to make her life as a maid and just trying to take care of her kids and all that sort of thing. It was really good, and yeah, it says hard work, low pay, and a mother's will to survive. I really thought it gave me empathy into like another population of people. And then there's Inheritance by Dani Shapiro. And I will say I haven't looked at her read list to see if she's read any of these, so maybe we'll see. Inheritance is by Dani Shapiro. She is a Jewish woman living in, where does she live? The East Coast somewhere. And basically, she was very close to her dad. And her dad had this huge, like, Jewish background. Like, just being Jewish was very important to her life growing up and to her father's life. And she ends up just on a whim taking a DNA test. And when it comes back, she has like hardly any Jewish like descendants or whatever, like in her DNA test, in her genetics test, whatever. And so she compares the results to a sister who is her half sister. And yeah, basically, there's no way that they could be sisters at all, not half sisters, nothing. And so this kind of is her like dive into who is her real dad, but also it gets into deeper themes of like what makes you who you are. And yeah, there's a huge like identity sort of thing in here, and I really liked it. Dani Shapiro is an amazing human too. I met her and she like asked me if I was a writer, which just touches my heart. Then there is Confessions of a Prep School Mommy Handler. So I know that Sarah has kids in school, well, a kid in school, and so this is about like a prep school in the US, and this gay guy that is basically like kind of in charge of like just like the PR kind of for this prep school. And I don't remember if it's a boarding school or just like a really prestigious academy. But he is basically like in charge of keeping all the moms happy, and it is just hilarious. Wade is a hilarious human in general. And yeah, this is a really interesting book that I could connect to based on one school that I worked at for a few years that was definitely like higher income and just like very crazy. Okay, another memoir. This is Being Human, and it's an unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist. This is by Judy Human, and basically, I believe she had polio when she was younger, and she was confined to a wheelchair. So it starts off with her childhood and just like how things in the United States were not accessible for her. And so it talks about like how she would like try and go to her friend's house, and like this little incline in the sidewalk created a huge barrier for her. And she would like just like get all her willpower and all her strength to try and get up this tiny incline in the sidewalk that no one else would ever notice. And then like if someone would stop to talk to her or something when she was trying to get up this incline, she would like slide down and have to start all over again. And then when she got to her friend's house, she would have to just yell like, "Can Susie come out to play?" Because there was no way for her to get up to their porch to knock on their door. It carries into her future when she's a little bit older, and how she's not allowed to go to school because the school is not accessible to her. And it just kind of continues on with her life as an adult when she becomes an activist. And she is such a badass. Like the things that she does for people with disabilities is absolutely amazing. I don't even know what to say, but I was blown away by this book. And there's also a documentary called Crip Camp, and she's featured in that. But prior to that, I did not know. I knew about like universal design for learning and how that stemmed from just universal design in architecture, but I didn't know much about Judy Human. So it was really, really interesting to learn more about her. And then I don't know if Sarah would like this or not, but it's The Beauty in Breaking by Michelle Harper. It is the story of an emergency room doctor. She is Black. So there is a lot of discussion at the beginning about like traumatic childhood she had. And then also there's a lot of themes of race and how that impacts her role as an emergency room doctor. The only reason that I'm not sure if she would like it or not is because I heard from other people that are like legit involved in medicine that she makes some really stupid choices in here. But I thought the memoir was beautiful, and because I have no medical knowledge, I just thought everything she did was lovely. I don't know. I couldn't judge her in that regard, but I thought this was beautiful and had so many different themes that were all kind of like interconnected. And then Lori Gottlieb, I think is how you say her name. Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. This is basically the story of a therapist who decides to get a therapist. And again, this is a book that made me laugh and cry. And I felt that I personally got a lot of like personal growth through reading this book. So it's a memoir, but it also kind of changed me and allowed me to see aspects of myself that I hadn't thought about before. So yes, this one was lovely. And finally, I know that Sarah loves Mary Oliver. I don't know if she's read Upstream. This is a book that I read before it came out through NetGalley, and it is just such a beautiful work of poetry and essays. That's my cat, Lyra. Poetry and essays, just about nature. There's like I can't remember, I think it was an essay about like her as a child and how she would just load up a backpack and go into the woods and read for hours and hours, and it was just so cozy and so like I felt so connected to Mary Oliver. Like I felt like we were so similar in many, many ways. So those are all my like memoir and poetry. Many of them are signed, but not all of them. And then I have 3 nonfiction books that I would like to share that are, yeah, not really, well, I guess one is kind of a memoir. Anyway, the first one is Zaytun by Dave Eggers. This is a story of a man from Middle Eastern like heritage. I can't remember exactly what country he's from, but he's living in the United States. And this is during Hurricane Katrina. And basically he's a small business owner, and he's just really this guy that like takes care of his entire neighborhood. He's very connected to people in the neighborhood, and just he's just a helper in general. And so when they are told to evacuate because of Hurricane Katrina, he stays back to help. And it is about basically his experience on what it was like staying when you were told to evacuate. So that was a really interesting perspective, because like I just didn't know what it was like to stay in a natural disaster like that. But then it is about him helping afterwards, and the stuff that happens to him that I mean, maybe I don't pay attention enough to the news, but I had no idea that Americans did the sort of things that are in this book. I know I shouldn't be surprised, but this was horrible what happens to him, and I don't want to tell you about it, but I will say this was an amazing book. There's also a scene with animals that like made me so sick, but anyway, really good. Then there is Wintering by Catherine May. I just found this really cozy and really good for our current situation of people being on lockdown because of COVID, and just kind of this low grade trauma that everyone is experiencing. So Wintering is the power of rest and retreat in difficult times. And like I personally have not had any serious difficult times because of COVID, but like I'm saying, it's just kind of this low grade anxiety, I guess, that's kind of in everybody, and just like things are different. And I found this really comforting. So Catherine talks about how to deal with situations in your life that are hard, and she talks about some difficult things she has gone through and how she has handled it. One thing she talks about a lot, which I'm kind of trying to embrace, is she talks about one thing that's super soothing for her is to read children's books, especially in winter. And I actually just went back and reread my favorite book from my childhood, and it was such a great experience. And so that's something that I am taking from this book that I would like to just build into my life more. But there's a lot more besides that in here, and I have a lot of things underlined. All right, and then finally, this is a bit of a more serious and more like, I don't know, intense read, but Cast, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. This is all about race and how America and possibly other countries have kind of created this caste system that's invisible, where people who are black or of color, but mostly black people, have just been kept down, and it's so hard for them to rise above and like make improvements and stuff like that because of this whole system that's working against them. So basically, like, they need to be like 5 times better, if not more, than the person standing next to them to be eligible for the same job, and like, you know, all this stuff. It was really, really interesting, and there were a lot of cool stories that were brought up in here, and yeah, it was really sad though. Okay, now I just have a whole bunch of fiction books, and all but 2 are signed. So the first 2 I'll show you are not signed. This is The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafran, and it's kind of a book of books, but in a more fictional sense. Basically, it's in Barcelona, 1945, and there is this kid who is the son of an antiquary. I can't say that name. A book dealer's son, and he finds this book called The Shadow of the Wind. And then pretty soon everyone is kind of after him. And it's just like things get intense and they get dangerous. And this reminded me of, oh, what was that book called? I can't think of the name. But anyway, the book she just read, that was also about books. I will think of it later, I'm sure. Then This Is How It Always Is by Lori Frankel. And this is just a story of a regular family who has a child that is different, and just their journey towards society accepting that kid and towards their acceptance of their kid, and basically like what it's like to have a child that could be trans. And I just found this book so beautiful. Then My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout. This is the first of the signed books, and all the ones after this are signed. But this is a story of a woman who has a really, really strained relationship with her mother. And I can't remember the reason. I don't even know if the book goes into the reason, but basically the main character is in the hospital, and she wakes up and her mother is at the foot of her bed. And so it's just like over the course of a few days, just their conversations during the hospital, and kind of like the healing or lack of healing that takes place when they're put in a situation together when normally they would not have even been speaking. All Adults Here by Emma Straub. This is hilarious in my opinion, but also deals with serious themes too, which is why I like it. But it is about this woman that is just so like quirky and hilarious, and she says the most funny things, and she is kind of an older woman. It starts off actually when her friend like is killed by a bus, well, her acquaintance. And like I don't even know how to describe the type of humor in this book, because horrible things happen and it's just worded in such a funny way. But Astrid Strick had never liked Barbara Baker, not for a single day of their 40-year acquaintance. But when Barbara was hit and killed by the empty speeding school bus at the intersection of Main and Morrison Streets on the eastern side of the town roundabout, Esther knew that life had changed, the shock of which was indistinguishable from relief. I don't even know what to say about this book. Okay. Then State of Wonder, which is my favorite Anne Patchett book. Basically, this is the story of a scientist who ends up going to the Amazon because another scientist who is researching this drug has gone missing, possibly dead, and she just needs to like go and recover his belongings and get them back to the family. And then she meets the doctor who is in charge of this whole like study. It's a study of a drug that is going to help with fertility for women. And it's just like this really adventure, love, all that sort of stuff story. It's really good. And then Jesse's Transcendent Kingdom. This is a story of a scientist as well who's doing research on like the pleasure-seeking part of the brain and all that sort of stuff. And she's also at the same time taking care of her mom, who has very, very serious depression. And it is just kind of like this back and forth between what's going on in her personal life and her research in a more like scientific setting. It also deals with like this huge like religious background that she came from, and then what she's doing with science, and like is there a connection between science and religion? Can you have both? All that sort of thing. And so good. I liked it better than her other book, by the way. Okay, we only have two more. This is such a long video. Oh my gosh. The Wildlands by Abby Jenny. And basically, so there's this town and there's this huge tornado in it. This family was a hot mess to begin with before the tornado, and they're an even more hot mess after the tornado. I said when Category 5 tornado ravaged Mercy, Oklahoma, no family in the small town lost more than the mid-clouds. Their home and farm were instantly demolished, and orphaned siblings Darlene, Jane, and Cora made media headlines. Their relentless media attention in the tornado's aftermath caused great tension with their brother, Tucker, who soon abandoned his sisters and disappeared. On the third anniversary of the tornado, a bomb explodes in the cosmetic factory outside of Mercy, and the lab animals trapped within are released. Tucker reappears, injured from the blast, and seeks the help of 9-year-old Cora, caught up with the thrill of her charismatic brother whom she desperately missed. Cora agrees to accompany Tucker on a cross-country mission and make war on human civilization. I think I'm going to stop there because the rest is kind of getting in too much to the book, but I found this book super exciting. Okay, and then finally, Manhattan Beach, which I'm going to have to read the flap because I don't remember all the details of what happened, but let me tell you that I was living in Illinois when I read this. My cousin came to visit me from Michigan, and like we had to have silent reading time because as grateful as I was to have her there, like I needed to read this book. It was so good. I read it from Nat Galley before it came out. But I do remember that it's kind of a story of like her this girl's father, and he has kind of this mysterious job that is a bit shady. But anyway, I'll read the inside flap. Anna Kerrigan, nearly 12 years old, accompanies her father to visit Dexter Stiles, a man who, she gleans, is crucial to the survival of her family. She is mesmerized by the sea beyond the house and by some charged mystery between the two men. Years later, her father has disappeared, and the country is at war. This is during World War II. Anna works at the Brooklyn Naval Yard, where women are allowed to hold jobs that once belonged to men, now soldiers abroad. She becomes the first female diver, the most dangerous and exclusive of occupations, repairing the ships that will help America win the war. One evening at the nightclub, she meets Dexter Stiles again and begins to understand the complexities of her father's life, the reasons why he might have vanished. So those are my 20 books that I think that Sarah from Your True Shelf would love. I hope that there are a few, Sarah, that you might be interested in getting from your library or whatever. I hope to do this for other people as well, just because I love recommending books so much, but there's no one else that will have 20 books. I'm just saying. Some of you are kind of hard to pick books for. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm curious what you would recommend to some of your other friends on BookTube. So yeah, it would be really cool to see other people recommend books. Anyway, I hope that you guys are having an amazing start to your holiday season, and I will see you later. Bye.